You salty Vikings fans. You salty Minnesotans. This is what you get. This is what you get for picking a fight with Philadelphia. I'm not letting you go for this. Not letting you go for this. 2017, you think you could just show up on the Rocky statue? You think you could pick a fight with Philadelphia, show up with your pigtails and your fake mustaches? You think you could just show up in Philadelphia and take over? No. 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 And you know what happened? You know what happened, Vikings fans? You lost. You lost. You took a beating. You took a big beating. And then you know what happened after that? We went into Minnesota, and the Eagles won the Super Bowl. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. We stole your Super Bowl, we stole your women, and we stole your stupid chair. We did that too. We did that too. We stole everything. And you know what happened last year? You know what happened last year? Oh, you think you got revenge. You think you got revenge. You beat the Eagles. You beat the Eagles. 23-21. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. You know why? Because Kirk Coupons showed up in Week 17. Kirk Coupons. And you know what's going to happen on Sunday? Kirk Coupons is showing up again. Kirk Coupons. Buy one pick, get one free. That's what's happening on Sunday. Brendan Albert is here. I am Adrian Fedke. It's time. It's time for the Eagles to pour a little bit more salt on the wound.
You think he's fired up?
I'm fired up. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go.
I think this is awesome. You know, I think this is, in general, Adrian, this is what makes the NFL great, when you have rivalries that aren't in your own division. You know what I mean? And I as a non-Eagles fan, but as someone who still considers Philadelphia home, even I know you don't touch the Rocky statue. You don't do that. You don't. There's certain things that are big no-nos. That's a big no-no, man. And you go down that line, okay, right? I mean, you're going to get it. And you know what? I understand the Vikings fans. If you live in Minnesota, you haven't seen a lot of culture. You haven't seen a lot of history. You haven't seen a lot of excitement in a city because you're from Minnesota. So I get it. But, man, you want to piss on the statue? Don't be surprised when Rocky swings right back at you. And I think that's what's going to happen again this week, Adrian.
Ooh. A lot of people swung back. Go Birds! Go Birds! That's what happened. That's what happens. That's what you get. That's what you get. So this is the fourth time in a row, fourth straight year that the Eagles and Vikings are playing each other during the regular season here. And, well, I think the one year they just played the playoffs. But, yeah, it's turned into a rivalry that the Vikings fans want to make it a rivalry, but they just keep getting their asses beat every year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is one of those teams. I think Atlanta's in a similar situation, Adrian. I call them the all-paper team. You write the roster down, and you're like, wow, they got some players here, especially on the defense and the defensive line, the receiving core, running back, safeties, corners. They got a lot of players here, but they miss it on the most important one, the guy who takes the snap. And Adrian, that's the biggest reason I think here this game is not going to turn out well for Minnesota.
Yeah, and I guess we'll start with Kirk Cousins right now, because I think it's going to come down to him. Eagles are, I forget what it is off the top of my head. I think they're number 2 in terms of rush defense, and Dalvin Cook number 2 in the NFL in rushing yards, number 2 in the NFL in all scrimmage yards, I believe it is. So I think the Eagles can limit him. I want the Vikings to run the ball, and it's going to come down to Kirk Cousins. And we've seen in these games that are meaningful, time and time again, Kirk Coupons shows up. Kirk Coupons, buy one pick, get one free.
Look, here's the thing. They're going to run the ball. And they're going to run the ball not only to try to stay ahead of the chains and put Kirk Cousins in winning positions, but they're also running the ball to make sure that this doesn't become a track meet and a point-scoring competition. Because if that happens in Minnesota, they will not win this game, and it will not be close. If I put my big, dumb Viking helmet on and I pretend here that I'm a Vikings fan, the only way that we win this game is we control the line of scrimmage and we limit the amount of offensive opportunities for the Eagles. Because if we try to make it a point-for-point game, you're not going to win this game here. You got to be able to run the football here. I agree with you, Adrian. I don't think this is a great matchup for the Vikings as far as running the ball. However, what I do think is a good matchup if I put my Vikings helmet on Dalvin Cook out of the backfield, because I don't see a ton of options. Yes, you have Malcolm Jenkins, obviously, but besides Malcolm, I like Dalvin Cook against any linebacker that he would get matched up on in space that the Eagles have on their roster.
Yeah, I agree with you that if they establish the run with Dalvin Cook, which is something that teams were able to do last year against the Eagles' rush defense, then yes, they are going to win the football game. But I see the same rush defense right now that I saw in 2017. And even the best rushing offenses couldn't get going against the Eagles' defense in 2017. So I don't think Dalvin Cook's going to have a Dalvin Cook type of day. Now, we'll see if he can kind of stay above that 4 yards per carry. But if it comes down to Kirk Cousins having to make plays on third down, I don't think he's going to get it done. And we'll see here if this Eagles pass rush all of a sudden got fixed. 10 sacks against the Jets. Now cool your Jets a little bit.
Right.
So it's funny because the sacks came in bunches. They go from 32nd to 12th because of a 10-sack game against Luke Falk because he's a statue in the pocket. A statue of liberty, pun intended. There you go. That's what Luke Falk was in the pocket. He couldn't escape it like Aaron Rodgers did. So in a lot of ways, I actually saw the same type of pressure against Green Bay, but they didn't record the sacks because Aaron Rodgers is Houdini. Mm-hmm. Well, that's why he's an All-Pro and an MVP, and Luke Falk is a 6th-round guy who shouldn't even be in the NFL.
Yeah, 100%. I think when I looked at the sacks, Adrian, more than probably a handful of those sacks is Luke Falk double pumping the ball, not getting rid of the ball here. Sacks are coming, after coverage sack situation, because you're right, Adrian. Yeah, Luke Falk's not great, but even out wide, they don't really have a ton of options there for the Jets. So those sack numbers are a little bit inflated here. So I think, Adrian, your comment of cool the Jets is 100% fair. If you're expecting the Eagles to be, let's say a 6-sack team weekly, that's just unrealistic. That's not what the roster is right now. It's not the 2017 roster where you can get after the quarterback like that. Now, that said, Adrian, this is promising because Minnesota's offensive line, this isn't exactly Dallas. This isn't one of the better offensive lines in the league. It's not the bottom of the barrel, but it's certainly closer to the bottom than it is to the top. So you will have to say, hey, as long as we can get in obvious passing situations where our defensive linemen know, hey, I'm getting into the pass rush. This is not a situation where maybe I have to drop down and anchor because it's 3rd and 4, and I'm not sure if I'm getting into my pass rush or if I'm dropping down, dropping anchor, and defending the run. You get them 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, you can pin your ears back and get after it here.
And, you talked about their offensive line. I think it is a little bit susceptible.
Yeah.
Left side, I think, is okay. So Riley Reef, they acquired him a couple years ago. I think in free agency it was. He was a former Lion. He's solid at left tackle. He's, slightly above average, I would say. Pat Elflein, their left guard, I think is okay too. And I like the center they drafted, Garrett Bradbury. But right side, Josh Klein's been kind of a journeyman. He was on the Patriots. And then you got Brian O'Neill, a 2nd-round pick last year out of Pitt. And this is a matchup that I think Brandon Graham should be able to manhandle him. Brandon Graham's about power and about a lot of different things. He's really versatile. And Brian O'Neill is a lot about finesse. And I think he's going to be Brandon Graham's bitch on Sunday.
I would agree. This is a matchup that 100% favors Brandon Graham, not only because Brandon Graham's more the veteran of the two, but because Brandon Graham is more of the power defensive end than the guy who's just going to beat you with speed every time. And exactly like you talked about here, Adrian, when you look at what the Vikings have there in O'Neill, he's more of an athlete than the anchor down, nasty SOB tackle that we kind of think about. We think about 90s football. He's more of the finesse guy. So if you want to put your helmet and play right through his chest, I think that actually favors Brandon Graham pretty heavily here in this matchup.
Yep, and they're going to have to get after the quarterback because if they don't, Eagles secondary a little bit leaky. All right, the cornerback's a little bit leaky. We'll see about this situation with the injuries. Sidney Jones going to be back this week. Now, they said he was going to be back last week. Then he didn't play, but that was the Jets. And I think after they got up 14-0, they just really didn't need him. So they just kind of saved them. So you're going to have Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas. Rasul Douglas has been getting better and better each and every week, I think. Mm-hmm. But it's Stephon Diggs. It's Adam Thielen. And for the first time all season, Kirk Cousins actually had some connections with them. It was the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, look, if let's kind of talk about a couple different things you hit on here, Adrian. If I'm looking at Kirk Cousins here, by far it's his best game he's played. Now, up until date, he also had a game against Arizona, not a great defense, complete blowout in his performance. He did horrible, only 98 passing yards here. It's hard to imagine this happened in 2019 and not, I don't know, the year 19 in the NFL. Green Bay didn't play well against the Packers, didn't play great against Oakland, threw the ball a lot against Chicago, but couldn't hit the ball down the field. So he's really only had one game here, Adrian. So I have nothing right now to say Kirk Cousins is moving in the right direction. Congratulations, you beat the Giants. Big freaking deal here. You're right. Rasul Douglas looking really good. This is one of those guys that really needed to step up, not necessarily because he had been failing, but because everyone else around him hasn't been doing well. But I'm glad you mentioned Sidney Jones here, Adrian, because I wanted to read you some quotes here from Coach Peterson.
Sure.
So here's some of the quotes he had here. I think at some time with an injury, I don't care what type of injury you get into, point where you just have to rehab and condition and push yourself through it. Then I read on, okay, I feel good, and you have to sometimes say, okay, I feel good, and I might still be a little sore, but I feel good. I don't know if this is a direct call-out shot at him, but I haven't seen Coach P really talk this type of way about many players in the past. So I do think Coach P is starting to get a little bit tired of Sidney Jones, a little bit.
You know, it's been a tough situation with the cornerbacks the last 2 years, and all the injuries. It's just really hit them. I'm trying to remember. Josh Hawkins was like put at cornerback in the playoff game because they were just so decimated, and it's hit them again so early. I mean, I think it could just be like a frustration of all the injuries, and you know, maybe Doug's just like, you know, listen, like, we got some injuries here, and you know, you got to just push through this thing. What do you think about that?
No, I don't disagree with you, Adrian, because it's like, look, show me a healthy team in the NFL right now. I'll wait. There's not. I mean, we are playing a sport that's just consecutive car accidents over and over between painted lines, and then next week we expect them to get back on the field. So, you know, I understand where Jones is coming from here, but where Coach P is also saying is like, look, no one's healthy here, man. I mean, this kind of is what it is. You got to go at this point in time.
Yeah. All right, I'm trying to look here. So Kirk Cousins actually has a pretty good history against the Eagles, and off the top of my head, I kind of figured it was because if like all these games the Redskins played against the Eagles, now that was against Chip Kelly and stuff.
Yeah.
But getting the ball out quick is something that he can do. That is something that he's actually pretty good at. So 8 career games, he's 5-3 against the Eagles. Quarterback rating 101.2, averaging 302.9 yards per game, and he's got how many touchdowns? 17 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. Wow, in those 8 games.
Better than you would think, but I also would tell you, Adrian, if you play someone twice a year, offensively, you should have a advantage the second time you play them. I mean, that advantage is always going to go to the offense the second time you play. And for many of those years, he was playing the Eagles twice. So You're right, Adrian. The stats are better than I think most people want to give him credit for. But I'm also putting a little bit of an asterisk next to some of those numbers.
I'm with you. And we've seen it time and time again. When the moment is bright, he doesn't step up.
Right.
So there's that. All right, so I'm going to go on the other side of the equation, and we're going to talk about Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard announced this week he's going to get more carries. He's going to be basically the lead guy here, the lead workhorse. What are your thoughts on that?
Do it. I mean, look, has he been underperforming? No. So why not? I mean, I get it. Everyone wants to see Miles Sanders get the rock more and more and more, and I understand that. You want to see what the young guy is because there's no doubt he's the most explosive of the two, and he's obviously the guy that you want to see in the passing game and all of that. But if Jordan Howard is keeping you ahead of the chains on first down, it's also meaning that Carson's probably going to get a better situation in the passing game down the line. So I'm fine with it, Adrian. You know what? It's not going to be exciting. Jordan Howard's never going to be a guy who's going to average, over 4.5 yards a carry. That's not his game. But you knew what you were getting when you brought Jordan Howard in, Adrian. I'm all for this.
Yeah, he's been the best back on the roster. He deserves this. I think Miles Sanders has underwhelmed a little bit, and I think Doug wanted Miles Sanders to be the guy, but
Yeah.
Jordan Howard has supplanted him, and he's been the best back on the roster. And the Eagles' offensive line is getting going here, playing a lot better. So when they're getting that push, and Jordan Howard can get that surge of momentum going forward, and the way he gets that forward lead and all those yards after contact, he's the guy right now. And I got a little nugget here.
Ooh, I love it.
So I got more nuggets than your weed dealer. There's my little line there. All right, so from 2016, 2018, obviously Howard played against the Vikings because he was a member of the Chicago Bears. Went over 100 yards 3 times in those games, 3 touchdowns in those 6 games. So he has a history of doing well against that Vikings defense, a defense that normally does well against the run. But Jordan Howard churning those yards up the middle.
And you know what, Adrian, again, that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I also think that we need to talk about Hunter and how good of a defensive end he is in Minnesota. He's one of those guys who's super underrated, and he will absolutely wreck your day.
He might be the most underrated defensive end in the league. I'm trying to think of one better.
No, I'm Adrian. He is that good. I mean, if you want to argue he's a top 3, top 5 guy, I'd hear that argument. But he plays in Minnesota, so he's not exactly in a major market here. But if you get him and you get the Vikings into obvious pass situations, he'll fuck your shit up, point blank. Now, I think the other thing that's important to know here, Adrian, and you're 100% right. Coach P, he wanted Miles. No doubt. When you draft a guy that early, you expect him to produce. And I'm not saying he's a bust. Let's not get twisted. I just think his progression is maybe a little bit behind than maybe some of us were hoping. But my thing was never pass protection. Everyone talked about pass protection and him and pass protection, and I get all that. My thing was always turning the football over. He's got 2 fumbles. You got 2 fumbles. Jordan Howard has 0. I mean, as a rookie, you just simply can't do that. That, to me, is the biggest thing that's holding him back.
And I remember when those fumbles happened, I wanted to yank him right out of the game. Just right after that, I don't want to see him again. I mean, you can't turn the ball over in the NFL, period, just like that. And Danielle Hunter, like getting back to your point, I think he's in Minnesota, and I think the other point is they have Everson Griffin, and he's been kind of like their mainstay for so long. Right. So he's like the second guy there, but I think he's surpassed Everson Griffin at this point. I believe he leads the NFL in tackles for loss. He gets after the quarterback. He used to be not as good in run defense as he is now. He's a complete player now, Danielle Hunter.
100%. I mean, when we talk about pairing and tandems of defensive end, most people, including myself, we think of the boys for the Chargers first. But these guys are right there. I mean, as far as guys who can flat out get after your quarterback on both edges, they can do it here in Minnesota. And Adrian, let me just kind of put a final nail in the coffin here of the Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders conversation. Not telling you who is who. One guy has 54 attempts, 193 yards, and he's averaging 3.6 yards per carry. Another guy is averaging 53 attempts, 248 yards, 4.7 yards per carry. I think most people would be surprised the guy who's averaging more yards per carry with even amount of touches is Jordan Howard so far.
Yeah. All right. So getting back to this defensive line of the Vikings, and I think it's one of the better ones in the league, but if they don't get pressure on Wentz, I think the Eagles' offense might be able to get going. So we'll see. But looking at some of these guys, it's not just Everson Griffin. It's not just Danielle Hunter. The guys inside are pretty good. Linval Joseph has been really good for a while. They've also got this kid that I've had my eye on last couple of weeks, Hercules Mataafa. I just wanted to say his name. But he's looked pretty good for them. And then Stephen Weatherly was a problem last year against the Eagles. I believe he came in for the strip sack that led to the Linval Joseph return back for a touchdown. So that's just their defensive line. Then they obviously got some pieces at the linebacking core, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, the better Kendricks brother. So that front seven's loaded.
Yeah, it's a good front seven here. I mean, like I said, Adrian, this is a good defense. I mean, again, I call them the all-paper team, but the thing that's always hurt Minnesota is they haven't been able to string together long drives, put the defense back in bad situations, and now all of a sudden defense has to defend a short field, or they're only getting 6 or 7 plays of rest because Minnesota, up until early in the season, they weren't able to run the football traditionally, so they weren't able to keep the defense fresh. But I mean, like I said, Adrian, this is a better defense than people give credit for here in the Vikings.
No, it's been good for 4 or 5 years now. Mike Zimmer So I had a question for you because I'm curious about something. Eagles offense kind of stalled after they got up 14-0. They had 3 straight 3-and-outs at one point, and it didn't look pretty at times against the Jets. I thought it was a really vanilla scheme. Do you think it was purposely vanilla? Because Doug's kind of looking ahead a little bit. Hey, I don't really want to put anything on tape for the Vikings and the Cowboys because a lot of people in Philly here, didn't really like the offensive performance. I was just kind of like, you're playing the Jets. You already know they already lost the game. Just kind of keep it simple, vanilla, and get out of Philadelphia with a victory and not put anything on tape.
I could talk myself into either one. I mean, honestly, Adrian, like I could easily say, look, you know, you were going to beat the Jets. You could pretty much just say, let's get up and let's kind of do what we need to, play pretty vanilla and just flat out beat them up, out Mike and Joe and not have to X and O them. But my flip side argument is the Eagles haven't exactly been looking like an elite offense. So to me,
they haven't put it together yet.
Yeah, so to me, I would have said, I don't give a shit who you're playing. We're going to beat the brakes off of anyone that's in front of us, even if it is the Jets. I wouldn't have taken the foot off the gas pedal at all. So I would say I am more of the concern side than the people who were thinking, oh, they did this to not put too much on tape.
Well, we're going to find out real quick if this Eagles offense can kind of rev it up here because I liked what I saw with the 12 personnel against the Packers. And you have the history of Jordan Howard doing well against the Vikings. So you get the 12 personnel packages with Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, even throw in the extra lineman. You pound the football down the middle. I think that can be something that can work for the Eagles.
100%. And what it does is it lessens the defensive ends from getting into obvious pass rush situations. When it's 3rd and 4, I can't pin my ears back and just instantly start going wide on the tackle. I have to drop anchor first, read to make sure it's not run, and then get into my pass rush. I get into 3rd and 6. Those defensive ends can play. So I would 100% agree with you, Adrian. I think this is another big boy football game for the Eagles, and they just going to say, hey, we're going to beat you up inside, if nothing else, to make sure those defensive ends don't wreak havoc on us.
Yeah. Vikings secondary, still pretty solid. Xavier Jones, if not a top 5, definitely a top 10 corner in the league. Trey Waynes, their other guy on the other side. Mackenzie Alexander, Mike Hughes, they've drafted those guys in recent years to kind of add some depth. And then you still got Harrison Smith, the safety.
Great White Hope.
What's up?
The Great White Hope. I mean, how many white defensive backs do we have in the league anymore?
Yeah. Him and Eric Weddle are like the two that immediately come to mind.
Yeah.
But the other Great White Hope is Zach Ertz. Come on, baby, make it hurt so good. You remember what he did in the NFC Championship game? He lit up Harrison Smith.
Yeah, he did. And it was funny because I was just getting ready to say, like, I actually like Harrison Smith. And then you, like, hit me with that. And now that's, like, on the front of my memory. I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah, that did happen, didn't it?
So I'm trying to figure out how the Eagles are going to kind of move the ball on the Vikings. And, if they can't run the ball, how are they going to be able to throw it? And maybe they can do it via the tight end. I believe the Vikings are 13th in stopping the tight end, which isn't top 10. So, it's a really good defense, but 13th against tight ends, it's only 6 games, though, so far. But Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, got to look at those guys because Deshaun Jackson going to be out, and this hurts your depth here at wide receiver because those are good corners there in Minnesota. So Xavier Rhodes is a guy who I think's a really good corner, again, top 10 in the league, but a little susceptible to speed, quickness, and maybe you could have gotten some with Deshaun, but he's out.
Let me ask you this, Adrian. Realistically, going into the season, how many games did you envision Deshaun Jackson playing? And I'd love for people, honestly, who are watching this live in the comments section, I'm curious. Generally, I'm honestly asking, how many games did you guys realistically think Deshaun Jackson was going to play?
I was thinking like 12 or 14.
Okay.
Because he's always going to miss those couple.
Right. Yeah, I had him at 11, and I just kind of said, like, hey, he's gonna make a lot of splash plays, and he's gonna make a lot of those plays that's gonna make you feel real nostalgic about things, right? But I also kind of know he's gonna miss a fair amount. So I'm personally not on this panic bandwagon that, oh my God, Deshaun Jackson's hurt, because kind of always is, honestly. We talked a little bit pre-show with Skolsky here, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us, and he said the same thing that I was thinking. Pick the phone back up, call the Jets again, and say, hey, last management didn't want to trade Robbie Anderson. Do you want to trade him now? Because, I mean, if you're the Jets, what are you doing? And he's a 2019 guy, or his contract's up in 2019. So I think for the Jets, they probably are okay with moving him again. Just a thought.
It's not a bad idea, and actually that can bring us to this topic because I think he would be the sexier option. Now there's this trade rumor that's come out of left field that Eagles fans are talking about with Odell Beckham. I have immediately just like, no, it's not going to happen. Have you even heard about that one?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean,
it's like the Eagles are involved on everybody. It seems like that's just the way it is, and I people are even in the comment section. I saw they're talking about it. I don't. It's not going to happen. It's doubtful. No, just stop talking about it. Why would Cleveland trade him?
Yeah, I mean, like think about it. If you're Cleveland here, what's your biggest problem? It hasn't been Odell. It's been Baker. And it's been the offensive line. So if I'm the Browns, it's not like, oh, this Odell guy's got to go. He's been a pain. We don't want anything to do with him. Let's get him out of here. And you just traded a first for him and a guy who's playing pretty well in Peppers there. So I don't see why Cleveland would trade him. And then vice versa. If you're the Eagles here, we talked about this a couple times here, Adrian. It's an older roster than a lot of people like to think it is. So you'd have to trade probably a 1. And, some other options. And do we want to just keep loading up at the offensive receiver? I don't think the receiver position is a problem as far as top-end talent. I think it's more of a problem with depth. So to me, I would much rather explore the conversation of Robbie Anderson type of guy than, say, mortgage the draft pick farm and then go get Odell.
Here's why I like Anderson, too, because if you're going to run this 12 personnel and you're going to start running the ball a lot, that play action is going to be lovely.
Yeah.
The double moves and the deep stuff that you can run with Anderson. Not only Anderson, but Jackson when he's healthy too. You can put both of them out there on the same field. Just streak them down the field.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, but this, Adrian, I'll be honest with you, this also comes back to my mindset of if the Eagles are going to be making trades here, I don't want Jalen Ramsey. I don't want Odell Beckham. And it's because of the cost, not because of the talent. Obviously, the talent's a no-brainer, but because of the cost. I would rather go get Harris, go get a Pat P to play corner, maybe or maybe get a Geno Atkins in Cincinnati, who's probably going to win maybe 2 games at best, and then explore, hey, can we go and we get a guy like Robbie Anderson, or maybe Larry Fitzgerald's actually finally tired of losing. I'm just saying there's a lot of older guys that you can get for day 3 picks that I would much rather explore doing than mortgaging the farm and getting the Odell Beckhams or the Jalen Ramseys of the world.
Yeah. All right. So one more quick topic before we get onto our game picks. Eagles got off to a better start. Now again, it's the Jets, but 14 points in the first quarter. 3 of the first 4 games they didn't even score any points. But not only was it the offense, it was the defense.
Yeah,
that was letting the team down. 24 points allowed in those four opening drives that the Eagles allowed to opposing offenses in those first 4 games. So 3 touchdowns and a field goal. So they get a 3 and out on the Jets' opening drive, and then a pick 6 on the second one. So that happened. So it's going to be key to get off to a better start here because I have a nugget here. Through 5 games, the Vikings have allowed just 28 points in second halves. That is second in the NFL behind the Patriots. So the Eagles, they've been a second half team, but the Vikings defensively have also been a second half team.
Well, and that's interesting, Adrian, because that plays to something I want to make sure we talked about, the fact that the Vikings are a 3-point favorite here. So Vegas is obviously looking at the same type of numbers that you're showing, and it's putting the Vikings at favorite. Now, traditionally, just so everyone knows, usually Vegas is a 1.5 to 2.5 point favorite for any home team across the board before they even look at the actual 2 teams. So this is a pretty close to a pick-em situation in most of Vegas's eyes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, somebody was asking in the comments here just quickly, what are your thoughts on Emmanuel Sanders?
Emmanuel Sanders, this is interesting because if you bring Emmanuel Sanders in, you got to kind of accept that he's playing the slot, right? So you bring him in, slot snaps. Now you have Emmanuel Sanders, you have Nelson, you have Djax, you have Ertz. That's a lot of guys in the slot. So that one I question a little, but frankly, you pick up the phone, you make the call. I mean, you make the call and you see what it's worth either way. The AJ Green one, I'm a little more interested in because I think he could fit better playing on the outside. It just comes down to how confident are you at what AJ Green and what he has left in the tank? Because I think anyone could say you have a lot of confidence or no confidence. I think the answer would be the right answer, frankly.
Yeah. All right, prediction time. And it sounds like you're leaning Eagles the way you're going. The line on this is, I believe, still -3 for the Vikings. So they're a 3-point home favorite. Seems like you're going Eagles here.
I am, Adrian. I think this one's going to be tight. I think the line is pretty damn close here. Let's go 27-24. I'll take the Birds here. I think this is going to be a close one here.
All right. So I've got 24-20. 24-20 Eagles victory. Kirk Coupons has one final drive to get it done. But no, he gets that interception in the red zone. So that buy one pick, get one free. It's going to be his second pick of the day. That's that second one you get. When you buy one, you get another one for free, baby. And it's going to be in the end zone. About a minute left, less than a minute left in the game. Kirk Coupon's going to come through again. Vikings are going to lose.
I like that. I'm going to go a similar way, but I'm going to go Dalvin Cook, costly fumble. That's what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
I'm going to go the other side of the ball. Dalvin Cook, costly fumble.
Yeah. All right. So let's get the salt out. Let's get the salt out. Let's get the salt out. Salt Bay. Salt Bay. Pour more salt on the wound. More salt on the wound. What do you think?
Do what you got to do, man.
I have salt all over my keyboard now.
Yeah, this might have backfired immediately on you.
I had a bowl that I put it in. There's a bowl in front of me, but I didn't get all of it in the bowl. So now I got salt on my keyboard. Totally worth it, though. Totally worth it for the salty Vikings fans.
Anything
else you want to say?
That's it. I can't wait. I'm just so excited about the trade market. I know it's really obvious, but like the Eagles make it so damn exciting with the trade market here. And I think in the next week or two, when we start seeing the Broncos, when we see the Cardinals, when we see the Bengals really just being even worse situations, man, I just think we're going to see a fire sale.
Dude, and this has been something that's been happening recently in the NFL. Like the NFL trade deadline has become like the baseball trade deadline when it used to not be that way.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, I think it makes it more exciting. I think it's good, too, for those loser teams, frankly, Adrian.
Yeah. I have salt everywhere.
Yeah.
Salt everywhere. Salt. I did get some in the bowl, though.
Good for you.
See?
Good for
I
you.
got some in the bowl. But I got some on my keyboard now. Oh. Man, it's a shame. It's okay. I'll clean up after the show. After the show. That's it, right? There's nothing else to say.
That's all.
All right, nice.
Ben Simmons hit a 3. Yay!
Now I can clean my keyboard. That's Brendan Albert. I am Adrian Fedque. We're out of here. Peace.
Appreciate it, guys.